Welcome everybody from Guangzhou, China. This video is dedicated to the NIO ET7. So I will give you some good things about the NIO ET7 that I like and my thoughts about what needs to be improved. So in the beginning I thought I'll make this video in my hotel room, but then I thought this is my first time actually in Guangzhou. Why shouldn't I bring you guys with me so we can kind of experience the city together a little bit. It's actually raining here, but it's quite warm. So let me know in the comments if you like that or not. Maybe you like the more quiet content better, the more analytical one. But anyways, this is kind of a download from my head about what my current thoughts are around the ET7. After experiencing it both in Italy, Germany and here in China. So, for a little bit of a context, I'm a subscriber to, well, Miriam and we are subscribers to the NIO ET7 in Germany. By this time not anymore, because that's the beauty of subscription. We basically decided to finish our subscription because we knew we are going to move to China. So I'm first here, and this means we have already returned the car. However, we had actually the whole experience for a full month in Europe. We drove from Berlin to Italy and all the way back up, and Miriam actually returned the car just recently at the newly to be opened Frankfurt NIO house. So that's kind of the context. And then I personally moved to China first, and I've used the last couple of days to extensively research on the ground what's the situation here, after 3 years of not being able to travel to China. Like, what are the latest cars here, what do people like to drive, what's the situation here on the streets. And frankly, I have to say, like here right now in Guangdong, I was in Shenzhen the couple of days before, Tesla is overwhelmingly visible. While I saw lots of NIOs on the road in Beijing and in Shanghai, mainly in the city centers. I think that's where, of course, the more affluent people are living. And well, I have to say there are fewer NIO cars out here, and I haven't seen one ET7 yet here on the streets where this video is all about. And the question mark is, of course, or the question here is, of course, is the ET7 a failure? Because we've seen very slow sales recently of the ET7. People are also wondering what's up with the ET7 in Germany and in Europe. The numbers are not reported really for the subscriptions. We can't really see them, right? I'm still wondering when NIO will break out the subscriptions actually in the earnings. And so the situation is that we think we had much higher expectations in the NIO ET7, and the question mark is, or the question is, whether or not there is an issue with the product itself. So there have been comments in Chinese social media that are not so happy with the ET7, with the first deliveries. It seemed that the ET7 was maybe kind of rushed out of production into the hands of consumers. Let's go to a little side alley here, which is hopefully a little bit more quiet. So it seems like they possibly rushed the product to the market, and there have been some lemons in the beginning, like some of the cars have had some minor faults, some maybe even some major ones, but generally NIO service is pretty good at dealing with that, and they have actually ways of giving you a substitute, like a NIO car, and then fix your car, and then usually this is not really resulting in people are getting super angry. But the fact is, it seems like there have been issues from the beginning. Now, what is my personal experience? Well, I can personally say that our car, from a quality point of view, was just totally perfect. So there was not an issue. You don't have any issues with like panel gaps or interior problems. Nothing really. And trust me, I would find this. I'm not a car blogger, so once again, this is more about my personal view for how I view NIO and the product as an investment. If you want to have a real car YouTuber speak about a product, of course, you should find someone else. For me, what is most important is this a competitive and a good product or not? Does it have a niche? Does it have a distinction? And whether or not this can stand out in the market and be successful. And the numbers say, well, maybe not, right? And as I said, I didn't have any issues on the quality part, and I think it's a beautiful car. My initial doubts were around the fact that I thought it might be just too big, but already the first test drive we had just for 1 to 2 hours was really giving us the feeling that this is behaving very well for a huge car. So it's very easy to navigate, easy to park still, and yeah, that's what I really enjoyed about it, because frankly this is one of my major concerns with NIO, that the cars are too big. I don't like that actually. I do recognize that most people actually want big cars, but I'm not that type of guy actually. But yeah, so the car is actually, in my point of view, not a disappointment. On the contrary, during my 1 month, or the week that we had it in Italy, but the 1 month in general, I felt this car is driving exceptionally well. It's behaving well at high speeds. It's very nice to drive on the Autobahn. It was very surprising how well NIO Pilot already worked in Europe. It worked on small streets. I'll make a dedicated video on that. And so I thought, no, this was not a disappointment at all. I really liked the product. But it was also interesting to see the difference from just 1 hour, 2 hours of testing, where frankly I was a little bit disappointed in the very beginning, to using it longer, and then the car kind of grows on you as well. So definitely, if you can, check it out longer, maybe consider to subscribe to it. Of course, if you only subscribe for 1 month, then it's a little bit more pricey, but for me that was a good trade-off, to be honest. But I think it definitely needs a little bit of time to get used to it. And my major concerns after using it for quite some time and testing it thoroughly was that in terms of positioning, I always said like NIO needs to position higher than Tesla, also in terms of price, because simply I think that's where I see them quality-wise. But on the other hand, they might have to continue being priced lower than, let's say, a BMW, Mercedes, or a Porsche. And that's because the car is missing a little something from the interior. That's just my personal view. Someone else might think different about it. Look at this. But what I think is you don't have the same feeling like entering a Porsche, where you got this special touch, or say a Mercedes. So I'm not sure if NIO tries to emulate this. I think what they really want is a very, very simplistic and clean design, and I think they made this very well, so they're achieving that. But what I really think is that this is a more premium Tesla in terms of if you want just to have a little bit of a nicer product experience or quality, then you should get the NIO instead of the bigger bang for a buck like Tesla, giving you the best performance that you can have and for lower price, obviously. And so yeah, NIO will take some sales from, let's say, BMW and Mercedes for those people who really embrace simplicity. But I worry a little bit that they might not be able to get those consumers currently that value a little bit more of a luxury interior. And that's why, because I'm comparing it also, for example, to the older platform, my sense is that the NIO ES8 was a little bit more luxurious inside from the types of material which they chose. Of course, it was also less simplistic, and I didn't like that. For example, the big front openings for the air ventilation, I didn't like that. But in general, it had more of this, a tiny bit more of this German feeling to it, German car brand feeling to it, than the ET7. And I think this might be something to consider. By the way, cheers to the weekend. Anyways, so I think that's what's lacking, frankly, from the interior, and partly might be the use of those sustainable materials, which actually I really like, and they're actually looking great on the pictures. And for example, I had the black color trim, and I never really liked the white color trim so much, but I think this material kind of looks, it's very, very progressive. Not everyone will like it. It doesn't have the standing, so to say, of more traditional materials that are, premium to luxury. And so I'm not sure that everyone buys into the sustainability feeling. That's just, that's very, how to say, my personal opinion, right? So everyone might have a different opinion on that. I'm just speaking it out. What I'm trying to find here is areas where NIO, in my point of view, has to improve. A second part where they need to improve is software. And I think the NIO software is actually quite good. So I don't have direct complaints about what should be different, or that there are some major bugs. I think I showed in some of the videos that there have been bugs, for example, with navigation and the supercharging. So that might be some easy fixes as well. On the other hand, I was super happy with the NIO Pilot. This was an amazing experience and worked fantastic. And I think there's much more to come. But, after just being here in China for 10 days and looking at some of the other competitors, especially the ones who started to adopting the Huawei Harmony OS. Oh man, the Chinese are really good at software, and of course every automaker kind of wants to have their own operating system because they want to own the data, they want to own the user experience and everything. But there are players like Huawei coming, and they're doing exceptionally great software. It's snappy, it's connecting to your smartphone, and so there is competition coming, and there is already good competition in the car. So you don't have a distinction simply by offering software right now, and that is the case for Tesla, but this is also the case for NIO. So what I'm trying to say here is NIO really needs to ramp up their software skills or R&D. They have to run faster than everyone else if they want to keep having an edge on that. The good news is that they are ahead of, for example, all of the legacy automakers, right? That's their Achilles heel. They are not good at this, and the danger, of course, is what happens if at some point maybe they will also adopt something like Huawei OS, right? It's given you a car that is coming from a German premium manufacturer and certainly it's offering a good user experience in terms of the software. So this is a real threat, not only to NIO but also to Tesla. And so I feel these are the two major points that I think need to be improved, and in particular with the ET7. I'm saying so because I also sat in the ET5. I haven't test driven it yet here in China, but I sat in it in Germany, and by the way, of course, they're also starting to sell it now. And I had the feeling that the interior was much better than the ET7 because, of course, it's targeting a different user group, so it's much younger. And despite the fact that they're using obviously a little bit cheaper material, like a little bit more plastic, I really like the execution. It's fantastic, to be honest. And that may lead me to my next question, what is a major concern of many people around the topic of whether or not ET5 is just in fact eating into the sales of an ET7. And frankly, I don't think so. I think the ET7 has a real place. Just the space alone in the back seat, and also, you know, how it behaves. Maybe the ordinary Chinese user who's driving, like, let's say, not more than 100 kilometers a day will not recognize, but the European user will definitely recognize. And so I think the ET7 is made for business. It's made for Europeans. It's a great car, and I don't think ET5 will eat a lot into the sales of the ET7, and I don't think that NIO made a mistake there with the ET5 versus ET7. I think these cars are different, and they both serve a different target group and a different need. And frankly, I would have a tough decision deciding between both. I would possibly go for the ET7 instead of the ET5, despite the fact that I think, yes, the ET5 is giving you a lot for its money and is extremely nice designed, right? Still, I would possibly go for the ET7 because I think it just offers a tiny bit more, and I think it's actually worth it. So, this is about my personal experience so far. Now let's talk a little bit more about if NIO has an edge against the competitors that I've seen here so far. And talking about the ET7 again. So, I think they really do have it. I've driven many cars here since I've been here, and I've looked to what's, you know, on the streets right now, what you can get. And I do think the ET7 is actually offering something unique and different that I don't see anybody else doing. So that's just in terms of the quality that they're offering, but then that's the quality of the car, but then there's also the ecosystem on top of that. So you don't get NIO houses, you don't get battery swapping and all of that stuff with some of the other providers. And I do think people that are in the consumer range of the ET7, they care about this. And it's a distinction that is getting harder and harder to copy by the day, and which, yes, requires a certain investment. But what I think makes NIO stand out of this very, very huge crowd here of there's a big bulk of copycats just trying to imitate NIO, Tesla and the likes. And so I'm happy to see that I think NIO did something different here. Although the numbers don't speak that language, right? But I think they will in the long run. So personally, my expectations were that the ET7 could actually do something like 5,000 a month alone. That's a big number, and that might be not in quarters like now, like Q1, Q2, but like, you know, in the big quarters, like Q4. And they haven't done it, right? They fell off a cliff, and we'll see what are really the reasons, like how much of that is because of the COVID policies and the shutdowns here, and how much is to actually a lack of demand or a failure of ramping up, right? They had issues with the stamping parts, and I guess we'll never find out what is the real reasons that those numbers never happened so far. But on a more substantial side, like in terms of the product, I don't think that there is an issue with the product actually. I don't actually think that they would need a real update of the car, which they have just announced, right? And we're gonna see what's happening. What parts are they fixing? I don't know. Maybe it's just about the interior. Maybe it's about also the exterior. I basically told you in my video what I'd like to see. Like the software part is more generic. It's possibly for all NIO cars. But then I think they should also work on the interior and try and get this little, maybe some little different materials there, which have a little bit more of a feeling to it. That's my point. That's my view here on what I think they may have to do in order to get things back up and going. And then, of course, a lot about the management of how to get it on the streets. You know, they had the issue about that they announced it too early, and then there was a long time and wait time, and people cancelled their orders or they switched to other brands. There's not much loyalty here, and if another brand can deliver and NIO can't, then they just go somewhere else and the deposit will be just reimbursed. And that's just the reality here. But I also do think that you know, maybe it's a little bit normal that you first kind of plow through your backlog of initial orders, and then it's yeah, going down a little bit. But of course, well, yeah, I don't want to sugarcoat it too much. The numbers haven't been great, of course. So now ET7 production has stopped. They are working on the upgrade, possibly coming during the Auto Shanghai event, in which I'm going to be there. And by the way, also I saw Elon Musk is coming, which I thought is the right thing to do. Many auto OEMs have already been here back in China. Tim Cook's been back in China. Elon Musk hasn't seen this market personally since since many years, and I think that's a mistake. I also thought like I can watch this market from back home, but that's certainly not the reality. It's despite the fact that I watch it daily and consume all of the news and have my sources on the ground, still being here is just giving you a whole different perspective on top of it. And I think Elon Musk also needs that, to be frankly about this. And so, yeah, I hope I can kind of take you on to this journey here in China. Well, that wasn't too exciting of a walk here. I'm new to this area. I didn't find much to see here during this video. But let me know whether or not you prefer such type of videos on the go versus the ones where I'm, you know, rather on my desk and telling you some more analytical things with some PowerPoint slides. Up to you guys to judge and to let me know in the comments, and also, yeah, some feedback on what I just mentioned and what are your personal views. Maybe you have tested the ET7 as well. Do you think it's a failure or not? I'm curious to know. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Consider becoming a patron, where I do some Patreon only videos from time to time, posted in the Patreon network. So thanks all. Peace out from a quiet day here, quiet night in Guangzhou, China.